Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity, where we're here to talk about Mr. Robot, the final season, season 4. I'm joined by a special guest, Akton Tamko. How's it going, Akton?
Hello, thanks for having me. So my YouTube just told me Enchantment of Eternity is live. So, in case I didn't already know. Thanks for having me on with you to talk about Mr. Robot.
And of course, Darrin from D's Reviews. Darrin, thanks for joining us once again to wrap up our Mr. Robot discussion.
Oh yeah, really looking forward to this. I know we spent some time diving through the first half of the season before, so I'm glad that we get to peek a little into the back half and kind of do a nice little sum up. So yeah, really looking forward to diving back into Elliot's world one last time.
Cool. So if you're not aware, we met before after episode 7 and gave our thoughts on the first half of the season. So then this video, we're probably going to focus more on the second half of the season, although we are going to talk about sort of the season as a whole. So let's start with our overall thoughts on the season and how it ended. And I'll start with my thoughts. I thought that the season was flawless. I thought it was a masterpiece. I think the ending is one of the best endings of all time. I think everything absolutely worked perfect in the show. And I'm totally not going to just change my mind and tell you something different in a couple of minutes. And I'm totally not just telling you what you want to hear. I'm totally with you. This is the greatest show of all time. Smash the like button, hit subscribe, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, give me money because I'm going to tell you what you want to hear because I'm just a fanboy and I have no opinion of my own.
I was wondering where you were going. I was like,
Akton, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, what he said. Oh, it's I'm reversed. What he said. No, in actuality, I think Mark and you are probably very close to the same page as me. I noticed our reviews were very similar. So my first review that I did right after I watched it, I really focused on the things that stood out with me that I really grabbed me, that I didn't like, that I wanted them to resolve and they didn't. So, but after some more dwelling on it and sitting on it, I really do appreciate what they did with the Elliot character, and just thinking of it in the whole scope of not just season 4 but the entire series, how they've really created one of the most interesting characters I've ever seen. And I talked about in one of my reviews how all of us have these different voices that are in our heads that are speaking to us. It just doesn't, for most of us, it doesn't manifest as actual personalities. So to be able to show that, to demonstrate that through the TV medium is not a hard thing to do, or not an easy thing to do. Like a vast majority of shows and movies that attempted something like this fail. So I thought I give all the credit to Rami Malek and to Christian Slater, to Sam Esmail for really pulling this off. If I would just focus only on the Elliot story, then it's close to it. Literally is close to a masterpiece. However, I don't agree with the people who said, "Oh, well, the other stuff doesn't matter. It's always been just about Elliot." It reminds me of in Lost, when they used to say, Damon Lindelof used to say, "Oh, it's always been about the characters, not about the questions." Bullshit. So when you say it's only about Elliot, well, no, you had White Rose and you had Angela too, and those were very poorly done. So I wish that the rest of the show was as good as what they did with Elliot. But I'm trying to now sit back and kind of dwell more on the positive and what they really did well, because they created. Rami Malek is amazing. Christian Slater was amazing. They created just an incredible character from beginning to end. And I like how it all fits together. But you will hear me bitching about some things, because unlike Mark, I am not going to tell you what you want to hear.
All right, Darrin, your thoughts on this?
I think you're both mistaken. This was a horrible show. I couldn't understand any of it. What are you guys? No, of course. Like I had said when we did our first half of the season review, coming into this season, I really didn't know what to expect. We'd had it felt like a really long time between seasons 3 and 4. I don't think it was necessarily all that much longer in between, but it had that feeling of time. We had so many other shows kind of going off the air and wrapping up. I wasn't sure where they were going to go. And from the first episode, it sucked you right back in and went, oh no, this is Mr. Robot. This is a mind-bending, no-holds-barred, complete cinematic experience on your little TV. And it pulled me back episode to episode. There were moments that, maybe I didn't like so much, that I didn't agree with. But the one thing that this show does so incredibly well is play with cinematic storytelling. Whether it be the 5-act episode diving into Elliot's psyche, or No Room Allowed, where there is no dialogue throughout the entire episode. Sam Esmail, everybody here really commits to telling very interesting stories. And even if you have no idea where they're going, it's always an incredible journey once it's all over. It was a hell of a season. It maybe stumbled a couple of times. The whole last little bit of, are we dimension shifting or not? Are we diving into heavy sci-fi, or is this psychological? Felt, I don't know, a little off. I wasn't sure where the final ending of the season was going. But yeah, kind of like you were saying, Acton, stepping back for a moment and looking at this as the story of Mastermind, not Elliot so much as the Mastermind personality, from really his birth to his stepping away from the controls, and this is his arc. It does make for just an incredible, one-of-a-kind piece of storytelling. And that means we're focusing more on one character versus everyone else. But at the end of it, is that what we care for the most? I think they landed this finale pretty well.
All right. Before we go further, earlier Cardinal Doomsday in the chat said that they couldn't hear anything, but Dan Palm said that you could. I played the sound that seemed to be working for me, so just let me know, anyone, if you have any issues hearing us or anything. Haven't gotten any.
Carl Doomsday says on my cell phone. Maybe it's just his cell phone then.
Yeah.
Because I'm not having a problem hearing it either when I. So,
all right, cool. Yeah, so just let us know. Anyway, let me give my real thoughts. Let me backtrack on what I said before. So, I think that's really cool, Atkins, what you're saying, that the more you think about it, the more you can dwell on what's positive. I've actually been doing the opposite. The more I think about the season, the more the negatives really bother me. And that's kind of my feeling of watching the finale as a whole, because I enjoyed the finale. I loved it. I had a good time. But after I sat with it, I started to notice all the flaws. And it seems to be the more I sit with the season as a whole, the more I notice that the pacing is a bit off and the story is a bit off. And I think, I love the story they told with Elliot. I don't love how they told it. I think the concepts were grand and really imaginative, and parts of it were amazing to watch, but other parts were just not very well executed. And I agree with what you were saying, Atkin, that some of these side characters really went through the wayside. They completely messed up the story. And I was going back and I watched an episode from season 1, and half the episode had focused on Darlene, half the episode part of the episode focused on Angela and Shayla, and so these characters have always been important. And to say all of a sudden that they don't matter, I'm sure Elliot's always been the main focus, or the mastermind, however you want to call him. That's true, but this show is made up of all these characters, and you can't just say, oh, we hit the landing on one of these characters, the most important one, so that's the only thing that matters, because it's not. And especially White Rose has been so important for the past couple of seasons, and I think they completely botched her storyline. Completely botched, in my opinion. But
Yeah, and I want to clarify that when I say I'm focusing, I've been focusing more on the positive. That doesn't mean that my the critiques that I have changed. Like I still feel very strongly about what I said in my initial reaction review. I just am also that was my initial reactions. I'm also starting to dwell on what they did really well. I still feel they did really well with the whole Elliot mastermind, Mr. Robot, everything, all of that. I think that they did an amazing job with that. But I totally agree with you. They botched White Rose, and I'm slightly annoyed when people say in my comments that, or in the chat or whatever, that oh well, that just never really mattered. I don't think we were supposed to think that mattered. The machine doesn't matter. No, the machine did matter. We've been building up the machine for 3 seasons, and what the machine ended up being, in my opinion, all the way when they started building it up in the second season, especially once they get to the end of the second season with what Angela saw, which we will never know what she actually saw because she didn't see what was in Elliot's head. So what did she see? We'll never find out. But the machine was built up since that time, and what I have come to the conclusion is all of that buildup for the machine and the possibilities of parallel universes was just so they could pull a trick on us and make us think that what the world in Elliot's head might be a parallel universe. That's the only reason they ever mentioned parallel universes or had the machine, as far as I could tell. That's the whole thing was building up to a gimmick, a trick to make us think that Elliot might be in a parallel world, rather than just presented as a world in Elliot's mind. That would have been just so amazing. The parts with all the different Christian Slaters everywhere, that was so creepy and awesome. Like they could have done like more just like crazy stuff like that. You don't have to set it in this fake parallel world and make us think, oh, I wonder if the show's turned into sci-fi or not. Well, I wonder if it's a parallel world. I wish that they had just disposed of all of that and just focused on Elliot's head. And make it something different than a parallel universe, and then have White Rose's storyline mean something, have Angela's storyline mean something. You say they botched White Rose, I feel like they botched Angela as well, because
absolutely
they had this huge character change for seconds from toward the end of the second season and the third season, where she basically, innocent, sweet Angela, who Elliot never wanted to even tell about F Society, is now working for the Dark Army and calling Irvin up on the phone. That's a huge character change, and we will never know why, because we have no idea what White Rose showed her, because we know it has nothing to do with what Elliot saw, because that was just completely inside of his head. And that was the problem coming into the finale. I said, if this is all in his head, then we need to know what Angela saw and what White Rose was really doing, and we didn't get that. So that is where I think the show failed. So I still believe that, but I just been trying to be focusing more on what I did like, and not focusing so much on that as much, because then I'll rage.
Yeah, no, I got your feeling. That's why I think it's very, I'm kind of envious of you that you're able to focus more on that, where I've been focusing on all the things you just listed.
I'm really confused. Are we kissing its ass or are we harping on it? I keep trying to go on which direction that we're trying to.
It's possible to do it both at the same time.
That is very true. That is very true. No, and there were a lot of side characters that were sort of dropped, and I think there were some decisions that were made to focus on that were not always in the cards from the very beginning. Whenever you do a universe shift, it's a personality, it's always, whenever you get the feeling like, oh, it was just a dream. Oh, it was just the imaginings of a small child. Oh, it was just, that always seems to be a reach to do. Again, I think for the most part, they were able to pull off a good ending to the story. But yeah, there were issues. I think ending after 410, that might have been a perfect wrap up, even after Conflict, the episode before then. Once they had beaten back White Rose and the Deus group, they could have done a perfect ending right there. The other stuff feels, I don't know, it felt drawn out.
But I want to address in the chat, First Name Wall said something very interesting. It says, from first-hand experience living with DID, that's what does that stand for again? Disassociated
identity disorder.
Yes, dissociative identity disorder.
Identity disorder, yeah, which is what Elliot has. There was a lot of factually wrong with the ending. I didn't think it was strong because of red herrings or cliches so much as it was just offensive. And I can definitely see that perspective because I think they did take a lot of liberties with how DID would work in real life.
Well, I think Hollywood, well, not just TV shows, movies in general, always have done that. That's what they do with mental illness. I think of A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe, where he's like actually he sees. Spoilers for this movie was like what 15, 20 years ago. Like, he sees Ed Harris actually walking around, and it's all. And I think there's one or two other characters, and it's all in his head. The real life guy was schizophrenic, which that's not how schizophrenia works at all. It's more voices that you hear than like you don't see Ed Harris walking around. If you see Ed Harris walking around, you probably just ate something bad. So, but anyway, the point is I mean, it's interesting to hear that because I was kind of wondering what real DID is like because I was certain it's probably not like what the show is because it never actually is. This is how Hollywood portrays mental illness. They take a lot of liberties. For entertainment value, to be able to tell their story, they take a lot of liberties with mental illnesses, and so I was kind of curious as to what the real disorder would be like compared to what they showed, and I'm sure it's probably a lot different.
Yeah. I did want to go back and address something you said earlier, Afkin, because you talked about that we never knew what Angela saw, what White Rose showed Angela, but we do actually know. I found the picture of what Angela saw. I just want to see if my screen share works so I can show you what Angela saw. So hold on. Just trying to get my screen sharing going.
I'm almost afraid. Yes.
I really can't wait.
All right, here we go. Oh, is it not working right? Oh, damn it.
Angela saw the Mozilla Firefox icon?
No. I can't get... Hold on. See if I can get my screen sharing to work. Hold on. Skin works best with use. Okay. Here we go. I pushed the wrong thing. No, that's not what I want. Sorry. I'm looking. I don't know if I can figure this out.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, it's too bad. What I was going to show you was a picture of the character from a pup named Scooby-Doo called Red Herring. I don't know if you remember that one. I couldn't.
As long as it wasn't Scrappy, then we're fine.
I do remember that.
It's Red Herring. That's what she saw. It was a red herring. It's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. And I don't. But we'll get into the specifics later. First of all, I want to go character by character. So let's start with Elliot's storyline. And as much as I did like his storyline and I did like his character growth through the season, I want to start with one of the issues I have with it. And I think, Apkin, you might have said something similar in your review, is that we're told to believe this personality we've been following since the very beginning is the mastermind, and that he was created so he could save the world. In fact, I went back and watched that fever dream that he was having in season 1 when he was going through withdrawal, and Angela in that dream says, "Oh, could you really think you can save the world?" And that sort of goes along with it. But I think, Afghan, you pointed out, and this is what's bothering me, is that he didn't come up with the idea for the 5/9 hack. He didn't even execute most of it. It was Mr. Robot. And throughout season 2 and 3, Mr. Robot was the one trying to go after the rich, and Elliot was trying to stop him. And Elliot was being more of the conscious. So now we're meant to believe Mr. Robot was the protector and Elliot was the mastermind trying to save the world. But I don't think that jives with what we've seen early in the season. It's more like Mr. Robot was the one trying to be, and they also said that the mastermind was an outlet for his anger. And they even showed earlier scenes where he's being angry. But really, Mr. Robot seemed like he's the one who went on all the rants, who tried to destroy a building and kill a bunch of people. He seemed the outlet of the rage. And Elliot and the mastermind seemed more of the outlet for his conscience, who was trying to stop him from doing that. And that's why they were battling each other. So it seems like they're completely retconning the dynamic of these personalities in the final season. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
And I've heard people trying to come up with explanations for it. Like, well, I don't even know. Like Mr. Robot, it was actually. See, I can't even say it because they're so convoluted. Like the explanations that I've heard people trying to come up with, and some people think, well, the mastermind personality just didn't remember doing it, so then Mr. Robot took his place because he knew that that's what the mastermind personality wanted. But then if that's the mastermind personality, how does he blank out on what he was actually doing? And we were always led to believe that wasn't him, that was Mr. Robot. So it's very confusing. It makes I have to do mental gymnastics to kind of wrap my head around people explaining how Mr. Robot was the protector all along. When I just watched season 1 before I did season 4, I rewatched all of the seasons, so it's kind of fresh in my head. And Mr. Robot was very much the mastermind of everything. And in season 2, he is hiding season 2 into season 2, he's hiding stage 2 from Elliot, from the so-called mastermind personality, keeping it a secret from him because he knows he's not going to want to do it. But if that's the mastermind, wouldn't he be the one who would want to do stage 2? The whole thing confuses me. But a lot of people are okay with it. They come up with explanations for it. I don't know, Darrin, did you have an explanation for how that works?
Well, obviously they were not expecting people to go rewatch the first couple of seasons before they dive back into season 4. And that's where, there does seem to be we changed up this whole story. There are a lot of additions into this season. I mean, the whole father abuse storyline, while portrayed very powerfully in an amazing episode, that's another one of those where I was like, is this really necessary for the development? This seems like an odd addition kind of at the late end. And like you were talking about the whole buildup of White Rose's machine for several seasons. And then they just try to play it off as like if an almost final episode bit, but even that ends up being a fake out where it's just, oh no, White Rose was just insane the whole time. Many of these do feel like they took like one season each and went, okay, where are we going to tell this story? I'm not going to make a Star Wars comparison as unlinked, seasons to seasons or episodes to episodes or anything like that. But one could look at it that each season is almost kind of standalone. They just look at where they ended off and go, okay, now where do we want to wrap this up?
But here's the thing about that, is that the finale it's almost telling us, see, we planned everything all along. They're showing the clips. We had everything from the beginning. Everything fits into place. And when I was watching it, I wanted to believe it. But the more I think about it, the more I look back on it, it really doesn't.
No, they sold that story well, but anybody that's ever done editing knows you can pull anything out of clips and it'll make it sound like, oh, they were thinking this,
Well, here's the thing. Like, so you all know that this was originally supposed to be a feature film. And then I forget who he said it was. Sam Asheville said some mentor of his, somebody talked him into, you should make this into a TV series instead. But the beginning and the end stay true to the feature film, apparently. So what we saw at the end was going to be the ending of the feature film. But I think in transforming that into, a television series, there's a lot of other time you got to fill there. So I believe him when he says they planned this all along. But I think that a lot of the stuff they did along the way kind of doesn't fit. So
weird, and then they had to go, no, back over here.
Yeah, I totally believe them too. That's why I'm saying it was a good concept, but it wasn't great. It wasn't flawless execution. There was issues with the execution.
Well, yeah, because like you're saying, I mean, it does portray the whole beginning as Elliot is trying to stop Mr. Robot, and he's trying to hold off the hacks and keep these things from happening. And it ends up always kind of, he finishes it up.
And since we brought up season 2, I was just thinking, in season 2, he took Adderall to block Mr. Robot, and it worked. So how come it blocked Mr. Robot, but not his mastermind personality?
Like, mastermind personality taking Adderall.
Wouldn't that block him as well? Because they're saying
because the other Elliot was in the secret. I don't know, Mark. I don't know.
Yeah, and being locked in this world, okay, so he takes a bus from the New Washington Township in New Jersey to New York City in his mind. Like, how does that work? I agree that they're playing really loose.
Your mind before?
They're playing really loose with this whole DID thing.
Yeah. Well, I've been reading, first name wall posts, and I think they almost think they maybe shouldn't even call it DID because it's probably what we're seeing on the screen is a fictional concept that I don't think has anything to do with actual real DID. So they're probably better off not even calling it that and just pretending this is some make-up thing that they made up, because it kind of is.
Yeah.
But how I like it is just how they're able to portray everybody, regardless of any disorder that you have. You all have different voices that will argue with each other inside of you when you're making any kind of decision. When you're it's just a normal part of being human, but we don't have it so one of them looks like Christian Slater, or one of them is this mastermind trying to take over the world. So it's a very unique way of just kind of demonstrating kind of the inner battles we all have, but just in a very, very different way, as Elliot has all of these different separate people within him. And maybe that's not really what DID actually is, and they shouldn't have even called it that, but it's still an interesting concept, whatever it is.
Well, again, for the Mr. Robot's always been very psychologically based, and when you have these multiple personalities and you do start to question what is real and what isn't, how cinematically do you present it? And this is one way that does keep the audience kind of on its toes and making questions as to what is real and what isn't real, because we're used to seeing and interpreting what it is right in front of our eyes. From a cinematic standpoint, how do you get the internal struggle on screen? And I think they made some good choices to get that to get that effect.
Getting back to my positive, because I don't want to. I'm sure everyone has the impression I totally hated the season, the ending, which is not true. I didn't. So let me get back to some of the positives, because I agree that throughout this show's run, they did some great things with portraying his inner struggle and how he struggles with the inner demons. And I actually think the reveal that he was abused as a child makes a lot of sense for the character and fits in perfectly. So I actually like that inclusion. I don't like how they revealed it through Vera, but I talked about that last time. And also, when we did our first half of the season, I was kind of more negative because I was unhappy with it. But after episode 7, I actually started loving this season. I was a lot more positive on episodes 8, 9, especially 10, which I think may be one of the best episodes of the entire show.
9 or 10?
10 was
Arlene and Dom was the best episode of the show.
Oh, was 10 the one with Dom? I thought that was 11.
No.
11 was Exit. Okay, then 9. Okay,
yeah.
Sorry. 9 was
yeah.
Yeah, no, the one with Darlene and Dom was really good. Not one of the best episodes of the show. But, no, the one with when they went after White Rose. So, that may be my second favorite episode of the entire show. And I love the Dom one as well. I thought that was a really good way to close up the series. And I love the sort of exit thing, because the confrontation between Elliot and White Rose was amazing. So I wanted to come on and be like, I'm positive now. But then the finale happened, and I think it kind of undone. I don't like that episode 11 as much anymore, Exit, because what's the point of it with White Rose if her storyline is essentially pointless? But anyway, I want to stick to Elliot. I'm sort of getting off on a tangent here. but Elliot, like this and his inner struggle, like I was saying, like I thought was perfectly portrayed, and I like the stuff with Krista. I wish we would have got more with Krista, and how he was sort of re-examining his life and everything like that. I thought that was done well, and I definitely agree with what you said earlier, Darren, about Rami Malek deserving some awards for this. Like he it was him. I can't fault him at all. He was amazing this season.
Okay, so we're
so is there any other points, because we're focusing on the ending, is there any other points in the Elliot Mr. Robot storyline that you want to bring up?
Not really so much. I mean, I do want to, harken back that, I think conflict was an excellent way of wrapping. That's why I was saying before, is that's almost a perfect place to have wrapped this up, because not only do you have kind of Elliot confronting his issues, but you also have Darlene really stepping forward in that section. I think that was a great way of getting her character in that as well. She's really kind of stepped forward and making the move and doing the F Society gag to make everything public and force everyone to come out. I thought that was a great kind of success for her, while Elliot was kind of dealing and wrapping up with his situation. So I have to agree, that was probably one of the better episodes of the series.
But I also like how he had that sort of mental breakdown after he found out. Like, he did that huge revelation that his father abused him. And I think they probably didn't follow up on that as much as they could have.
No, they simplified. I mean, at the end of that, I think it was kind of, he faced his demons. I like the fact that they had brought Mr. Robot back and sort of pulled him back in as a way to push and finish the final hack there. But no, they did kind of push through that, I think, really quickly. And that's what's the problem with bringing it up so late in the season, is it's like, great, we have this whole internal thing that you just discovered. Oh, and by the way, you have to do your hack right now. Then we got to say goodbye to Darlene and Dom, and then you've got to wrap up the show. So they did seem to push through that, I think, kind of quickly. But they had to. I mean.
Well, that's interesting, because after the episode 9, I was like, what are they going to do now for 4 episodes? It's like, isn't it kind of like over? but there was actually a lot that they had to do, as it turns out.
Well, I knew that they needed to address what this other personality was, because that was hanging, and they needed to address that, and they needed to address White Rose's project. I wish that they would have done both separately, though, instead of tying them together and just using White Rose project as, doesn't matter, surprise. It's just there to fake you out.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to change the subject. So
okay, I said not almost. I kind of wish they really, from the beginning, had just made White Rose's in-game something else entirely and never even brought up elements of sci-fi. Because I was among the people who was nervous about it suddenly changing the sci-fi. I didn't know how that would come across. But then when it ended up being all in Elliot's head, I was like, well, what about the sci-fi stuff? You got to pay that off in some way. Darren said earlier, that it turns out it was all White Rose was just crazy. Well, actually, we don't know that. I mean, maybe her machine really did go in the parallel universe. For all we know, they didn't tell us. They never resolved that. I feel like I keep repeating myself.
I feel like that's a turn off your brain. Who cares? Turn off your brain. Doesn't matter. This story's just about Elliot. We spent all these storylines focusing on White Rose just to trick you. That doesn't actually matter. That's not good storytelling, in my opinion. Yeah. And here's the main thrust with this, because this is what we talked about. I talked about what bothered me most about the reveal, because I think I actually don't have a problem with them revealing that he's not the real Elliot. Like, I love that. I think that's done well. I think they should they're totally separate. I think the way they did it is very clear. They were trying to fake you out. They were making you believe that it was a parallel universe. Now, I've gotten like people comments in my videos, people arguing, no, it wasn't a fake out. Here's the thing. Whether or not you liked the ending, you thought it worked, is a matter of opinion. Everyone's entitled to their opinion in that matter. Whether or not this was a fake out is not a matter of opinion. And the whole way it was portrayed, how they went to this world right after the thing blew up, right after White Rose said she was going to operate her machine, and she mentioned parallel world, and then they showed White Rose and the exact situation she described she wanted herself to be in. It is unquestionable. It is indisputable that they were trying to make you believe.
Oh, what was inside of Elliot's head was exactly what White Rose described,
yes.
As far as her storyline goes, and also exactly what Angela described to him
Absolutely
earlier when she said, "Oh, it's a place our mom and dad my mom and your dad are still alive." So it's just one hell of a coincidence that Elliot created a world in his head that is precisely like the parallel world that White Rose always describes, and the parallel world or whatever it was that Angela saw is exactly the same as what's in Elliot's head, and it's a total fake out. As I said before, I think the whole point of them even having that storyline was just to build up to this fake out at the end, and it felt cheap to me. I feel like we keep harping on this again.
Yeah,
well, I think what's one of the issues when you have the solution of this whole thing was one personality of Elliot's. One of the issues that you have with it, I think one of the cheats that it gives the directors is the fact that they can make anything be real or not real, since it was all through the point of view of this, partial entity, this one personality. Now, I don't know if you guys have saw it or if it was just my interpretation, but the final shots that we had of Darlene, she looked to me a lot more together and cleaned up than she had in any of the previous stuff that we saw to her, which made me think that the cracked out looking Darlene might have been a painted over gloss from the mastermind personality. The Elliot in the parallel world had done the drawings, and everyone was like, "Oh, this is the partner, and this is, he's the hard, security expert by day, hacker by night." He had a very dark look, with the hoodie and the dark eyes, and Darlene again the same thing, the kind of more edgy look. My concern what they have with the ending, whenever you do this, it was a personality, it wasn't all real, is they can use the excuse that, the whole White Rose thing, well, that was just magnified because that's how this personality saw it. That wasn't actually real. Darlene, she wasn't as cracked out as what we thought that she was. That was just the imagings of this personality. That wasn't real. Even the whole Angela stuff, my concern is that's what they use as the excuse, is, well, because it wasn't real, then we can just poo-poo all these other concerns because that was just an interpretation of this personality, but not the actual reality that was going on.
That's an interesting interpretation. I don't know if I would see it that way myself. I would think that Darlene actually got her shit together after the events of episode 10, and that might have to do with it.
Sure.
I think both are possible.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that I think Darlene may have been one of the characters other than Elliot that they did treat well. I did actually like.
Well, we're going to get into her a bit more later.
Okay, we are. We'll get into her
yeah.
later. Like what they did with Darlene.
But I want to focus on this fake out because I still feel like that's strictly on the Elliot side of things. Is that the main? I do think, and I brought this up in my other videos, that and this is what I keep coming back to. It reminds me too much of the ending of Lost, because Lost presented what they thought was a parallel universe, but it turned out to be something totally different. Surprise, it's something else. Now, granted, I don't think it's nearly as bad because that parallel, what it turned out to be, made no sense. It was actually melodramatic and cheesy, where this one actually made a bit more sense. But it was still like, fake out surprise, and I think there are better ways they could have handled this than that.
Well, and also the other difference is that the Lost was the whole season, the whole final season, and this was just at the
Just
end.
the one episode. But that makes, to me, it makes that one episode irrelevant because we spent like an almost entire episode of Elliot running around in this perfect world, and it seemed to all fit into that this is a parallel universe until it didn't. Then one moment, bam, here we're at the wedding, they're all wearing masks. Now all of a sudden it's going to be weird in his mind all of a sudden. Which it seems, that's inconsistent to me. It seems like if it was all in his mind, it should have been weird all of his mind from the start, not exactly how White Rose.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
I would have loved it if they made this world in his mind always just be weird like that, and not try to make it like it's a parallel universe. In fact, I would have been fine if they just left out the whole parallel universe thing.
Absolutely.
You never even mentioned it. And when we get to that part, it's just all of Elliot's weirdness in his head, and not necessarily this like parallel universe fake out. I would have appreciated so much more. Once they got out of the parallel universe stuff and then started getting into a lot of weird stuff, I loved it, to be perfectly honest. But I wish the whole thing was just kind of like that.
Well, I think with me, once they did the parallel universe, if it was like, oh, if this is where they're going to go, then nothing matters. What's ever happening in this parallel world doesn't matter. It's not contributing to the evolution of the character that we see. This is someone entirely different that we're watching to go through. What arc are we doing of this parallel universe Elliot that means anything? So yeah, I think it really made Exit empty, simply in the sense of like, you can't start a new story right before we wrap up the other one. I don't know anything. All of this is fake. Okay, it's an imaginary world. If everything was all wonderful and cool, so
Well,
yeah, it felt disjointing to do that right at the end.
Well, I think that's where I differ from a lot of people, because I've seen a lot of people, and some I think were guessing that it was all inside his head from the very beginning because they didn't want the show to turn to hard sci-fi. And I've been on record before saying I wouldn't mind. I think, I mean, the show definitely hadn't had anything that hard before, but it has been hinting at it since season 2. And so I wouldn't, and I pointed out other stuff like the Deus group and White Rose putting Trump into office and the whole hack itself, that it is a bit fantastical. Now, granted, not to the point of parallel universe, but it does remind me a lot of the X-Files. So I don't think the show is grounded in reality. I heard some people say, oh, this would be a huge departure for a show that's grounded in reality, but I don't. Like, just forget about the whole parallel universe. Let's pretend it never was in there. There was no hint about it. I still wouldn't say this is a grounded in reality show. I still say it's a bit flighty with White Roses behind all the wars in the world and made Trump president and stuff like that. So, and when I saw that episode 11 exit and I thought that it was a parallel universe, I actually loved it. I wouldn't mind, and to answer your question, Darren, about what would it matter, it would matter because the real Elliot, the one we know, was seen in this world. And when I first saw that, his reaction to it and how he wanted to kill the other Elliot to stay in the world, like, I thought that was cool. And I think the show could have done away, like, if the show undid everything and it never went back, then of course that would suck. You can't undo all the events, but I think they could have a way to bring it back, which I thought would have been great. But I think the reveal that, oh, this is all just a fake out, kind of cheapened everything. And I was less interested in it. The same thing with Lost. As soon as they revealed, oh, we're dead the whole time, I was less interested. I thought it cheapened everything.
Well, I kind of see both sides of it, because I definitely was a little leery about the sudden turn into sci-fi, but I was kind of open-minded about how they're going to do it, because for me, what mattered to most in the end is not whether or not they made a hard left turn into sci-fi, but does it jive with the rest of the story? Does it make sense? And even though it would have been a hard left turn to the sci-fi, they had been building it up since season 2. So it wasn't like a new... If they had just suddenly introduced parallel universes halfway through season 4 and then all of a sudden, boom, then that would have been terrible. But they had been building it up since season 2. So I was open-minded, like, okay, if they're going to go into sci-fi, let me see how they're going to do it. But now that I see that the whole purpose of it was just to fake us out. I now wish they had never mentioned anything about parallel universes, and whatever White Rose's end game was just something else completely different that had nothing to do with parallel universes, and have Elliot's imaginary world in his head just be something entirely separate and not have to do with White Rose's project, is what I wish now. But I was open-minded about it being sci-fi, even though I was definitely one who was like, I don't know about this show becoming sci-fi. And yeah, I know that's a disagreement you and I have had in the past about I don't
ever since before the season started.
Well, yeah, but I don't. But the fact that you can compare White Rose controlling all of the wars and everything to sci-fi is because I don't think that is honestly. I don't think there's like one, group behind the shadows, but not to get too political, but the rich people do kind of manipulate world events, people with a lot of power. So that's not that far off of reality to me, where sci-fi is sci-fi. So I don't think it's comparable.
But the way I like this, definitely the parallel universe is definitely much more fantastical, as I said. But the way they portrayed it, like, sure, yes, the rich control everything. That's true, the reality. But the way they portrayed it is like a bunch of people smoking cigars in a smoke-filled room, going, "This is how we're going to rule the world." It reminds me of the X-Files. That's exactly what the X-Files did. So that and that was fantastical. So it seems
I think
fantastic.
wasn't that just Elliot imagining
It's more of a political thriller, I think.
No, that was
more of Elliot's like picturing of it.
No, that was Price who was. This is a Deus group, and Price was explaining the whole thing, and that
but I don't think
felt very X-Files like to me.
People smoking cigars. I thought that was Elliot's imagining of that, but
yeah, but it's essentially this conspiracy of they start all the wars, and there's one person, White Rose, is doing this so she can create a machine that's apparently useless, and she lets Elliot turn it off, even though she killed lots of people, spent lots of money, and controlled worlds, started wars, just so she can make this machine, and she lets Elliot turn it off.
That yeah, I had that complaint too. White Rose started like both Iraq wars. I think all the wars that happened from the 90s on, everything, and then of course in the world of the show, the 71 buildings killed countless billions of people for this machine. Then she lets Elliot turn it off. She gives Elliot the means to turn it off, and then we never actually find out what the machine does.
But go ahead, Darren.
No, I was just going to say, Susan Mango and first name Will trading back and forth in the chat. Susan says, Elliot just walks into a nuclear power plant, which was just invaded by terrorists, and there are no police. To which Will responds, and no guards with him in the hospital after. That was something that I was thinking very much of when I watched it.
But the police cars were coming. They were a little behind.
Yeah.
In there, and they were all...
They eventually showed up, yeah.
But they were a little slow. Like,
but it is an easy wrap up at the end of like, oh, Elliot went and saved everything, and White Rose is dead, and we all find it. And they do quickly kind of just smooth over all of those particulars.
Yeah, and then,
also, I would remind that all these events that take place in the continuity of the show, that's actually real. That happened.
Yeah. Oh, right. I've heard the take that let's try not to think too much about what's going to happen to Elliot after this, because he was caught. He was found by White Rose's dead body, and we know what White Rose was all up to, and there's a scenario where like things could go, like he could end up back in prison again. Like he could get, they could tie him into a lot of this stuff.
Well, and let's not forget, he's been gone this whole time. So the real Elliot personality is waking up a year later.
Yeah,
post 5-9. Angela is dead, who in his fantasy world he's about to marry. White Rose has got the coming. I mean, his wake up is not going to be pleasant at all. He's gonna be going back to Krista soon.
Well, they were a bit unclear of if the real Elliot was aware of events.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who thought that when they did that weird like tunnel thing through his eye, that might have been like a download of memories.
Yeah, that's wishful thinking. That doesn't happen. There's no saying there was all these points where Mr. Robot was doing things that Elliot, Mastermind, whoever wasn't aware of. So, and again, even if it is this download of information, he still wasn't part of any of that. So he's still waking up going, oh my God, what is all these things that have happened? So I think that's sort of a fantasy of like, oh, we were downloading. To me, that was just like, they're stepping back, watching the movie behind Elliot's eyes and drifting into his consciousness. I think the idea download is a pretty put a bow on the top of it that I don't think was stated anywhere.
See, that's more like if we pretend like there was no mention of a parallel universe, time travel, no machine, I would still classify this show as somewhat fantastical. For its portrayal of DID with the different personalities, that is dwelling into the fantasy world, and the 5/9 hack itself, and especially the Deus group and White Rose making Trump president and stuff like that. I would still say this could be put in the fantasy genre. Just remove all the mention of the
I don't think you put it in the fantasy genre.
No,
I think that's
for hackers. That's what it is. It's a psychological, storyline. Everything else could be sort of realistic in our world,
and like E-Coin taking over everything and stuff like it is. This is like a parallel universe that we are watching. It's not our own universe.
Oh yeah,
that puts it into a fantasy genre for me.
No, it's. I think then you have to classify every like psychological thriller or anything like that you've ever seen as fantasy.
Not everything you like that has E-Coin. Not everything like that has a Deus starting wars and controlling
all movies are fiction and are fantasy in some way, but that doesn't mean they qualify.
But not to this degree. This is a strong degree, in my opinion. Especially
where would you classify
like
Fight
the different
Club?
Personalities.
Yeah. I was going to say, where would you classify Fight Club? I think it would be a variant of whatever that genre would be, because it's very much the same kind of ideas.
Anyway, let's move on from that discussion. And all right, so we kind of touched on pretty much all the characters, but let's hyper focus now on White Rose, since we kind of touching on White Rose a bit. And to me, White Rose, especially, we got that scene earlier in the season, which I thought was amazing. That showed her backstory and her lover dying and how she couldn't really come out as a world. And so when we were shown this parallel world where she was out and everything was perfect, to me, I thought that felt like meaningful. That felt like it was a good ending for her, something that she was striving for. And it would have been a really powerful storyline. But as is, I don't know. Like, I guess some people could make the argument that she's meant to be a tragic figure who tried too hard to change the past and ended up being pointless. I mean, here's talk about her project, and the reason why it didn't work was because it was in Washington Township, and she said that it needed to be in the Congo for the work. But my interpretation of that was, I thought she said, like, it's going to blow up and explode because it's in Washington Township and cause a meltdown. That if it was in Congo, it wouldn't blow up and explode and cause a meltdown. I think the effectiveness of it wouldn't be affected by where it was.
Yeah, I agree. Otherwise, she wouldn't have turned it on and tell Elliot that I'm going to show you what I showed Angela.
Yeah.
Like, she believed it was going to do whatever it was supposed to do, create a parallel universe or whatever it was. Whether or not it's in Washington Township or Congo, but the Congo, they could do it more safely without causing a meltdown. So I think, when people say that that the machine wasn't going to work in Washington Township, I think that's incorrect. I think you're right that it was just going to cause a meltdown, but it would still work, whatever it was supposed to do.
See, I saw it as it was going to cause a meltdown either way. They just figured this is the Congo versus the middle of New York. To me, that was just an even harsher interpretation of why they were moving it. It was still going to melt down. They would just rather have it in the Congo.
Oh, okay.
Than over here. Again, I don't know, but that's how I saw it. Which I was like, okay, I can see where it is. You just want to melt down New York. Congo's okay.
Yeah. I thought White Rose's speech to Elliot indicated that there wouldn't be a meltdown in the Congo. And I don't know. I could be wrong, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I said,
I have to go back and watch it again.
Yeah.
But anyway, Darren, what are your specific thoughts on White Rose and her storyline? Do you think, or do you disagree with us? Do you think it actually worked?
No. I mean, I don't. Just because they give us the fake that this is the alternate reality, and it ends up being this, recursive loop inside of Elliot's mind where he trapped this other, the main Elliot personality. So I don't think it's decided at all. I mean, she's dead on the ground unless she thought that the new universe would somehow bring her back to life. That seemed to have been her wrap up of her storyline, which, is kind of sad. I mean, look, BD Wong did an amazing job with White Rose. There were some incredible scenes. Even the last big scene between Elliot and White Rose in the office in the Washington Township nuclear plant was amazing. The whole "do not make me laugh,"
yes, totally agree with you.
I mean, for a final scene, that was incredible and it was awesome. But it does sort of wrap up the idea of, because we don't get that sci-fi shift, the only thing that we are left with is she was crazy. She started this whole mad hacker group that was mad and obsessive, killing everybody, would rather kill themselves than be captured, turning people. I mean, Irving was hacking people with axes on Santiago. I mean, just crazy stuff. There is not going that she was just crazy and insane. That is more of an applicable thing than the fact that she thought that she could, with nothing else physically given to us during the whole series, that there could be any reality to what she was talking about. If they had done the sci-fi shift earlier in the season, you could have played with that, but you can't do it again with minutes down on the clock to wrap things up.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only thing that we had with her, which is kind of a sad ending. We wanted maybe a bigger, stronger bit from her, but on the other hand, her obsession with trying to create a world where she could be, where her lover could come back, that being sort of what twisted her. And I think it's a fair ending for the character. But yeah, to me, the moment that happens, it removes any of the reality for her, that her machine could have done anything other than blow up.
Well, I don't think so. Like, I think there's that's definitely one interpretation. You could look at it that way, that she was just crazy and the machine done nothing, or you can look at it that she wasn't crazy and the machine would have created a parallel universe, but she gave Elliot the means to turn it off, which is what we're meant to believe, because Mr. Robot tells Elliot, "Oh, you were able to shut down the thing with the game that you played." Right. So her project never operated, never went off. So we're left actually not knowing whether or not it would work. And that's why I don't like it. That's why I don't think it's a good end to the storyline. Yeah. I think we don't have to go in the parallel universe. I'd be perfectly okay that there's no sci-fi where it does not parallel universe, but there would need to be a better resolution, better explanation to not just White Rose, but also Angela, bear in mind, why she went off the walls, and I'll talk more about her later on. But yeah, and it's like, I totally agree what you just said, Darren, about how that scene where she says, "Don't make me laugh," that was amazing, and I thought it was undone by what they did in the finale. Yeah,
well, I mean, again, it undercuts everything once they made those choices and when they decision. It was almost like there was just, sometimes you can spend too much time telling a story. And to me, that's what it sort of felt like. It's like at the end, it was like, well, we got a couple more episodes. We still want to do a couple of twists. We're M-nighting somewhere here. Again, there was great stuff. It felt stumbly and a little winded at times.
Well, see, now, I think that I don't know how you feel about it, Mark, but I would have been okay if they did clarify that maybe not White Rose is necessarily crazy, but this is some sort of fantasy that she had. Like, that's what Philip Price always said. This is just a fantasy. Like, it's not real. Like if it was clarified that for certain that White Rose was kind of delusional and she was living in this kind of fantasy, and then you can kind of feel sad for her, like, oh, she just created this fantasy because of her, what happened with her boyfriend and all of that stuff. And you can almost empathize for her, even though she's still this very evil person who started wars and killed billions of people. But you can almost, I would have actually appreciated if they did make that clear. But you're right, they didn't. We're kind of we don't know whether the machine was real or not.
Well, here's the thing, though, and I kind of agree with you, but there's a dangling thread of why that might not work, and that's Angela.
Right. They would also have to tie in.
Yeah.
Then if White Rose is just delusional, then what did she do to convince Angela? And then maybe White Rose just part of her delusion is she made something up, like she manipulated Angela in some way.
Peyote. It was peyote.
But I felt like my emotions were being manipulated and toyed with by the fact that they had the White Rose say to Elliot, "Oh, I'm going to show you Angela. You're going to see Angela again." And the fact that I'm going to show you what I showed Angela. But she fucking didn't. So I feel like that's a huge letdown. Yeah. Like, even if what she showed Angela wasn't a parallel universe, like a lot of people were all the theories are going that it was just a computer simulation meant to fool someone to think it was a parallel universe. That would be satisfying. I would like that. So you don't have to go hard sci-fi. You can stay in this world, but they needed to address it, and they didn't. It's all red herring. It means nothing. Don't look here. Don't look here.
Yeah, and I had speculated, it could have been she drugged her. I didn't say peyote specifically, but drugged
I don't know what would be appropriate. That's not my knowledge.
Some kind of simulation, something, But you gotta be careful with the simulations. We're not getting into holodeck territory. In my penultimate episode review, there's somebody in the chat that said the final scene was going to be White Rose going computer in program. Because the holodeck, it was all in a holodeck all along. But no, I was open to them doing something like that too if they were able to pull it off. But I wanted something. We got absolutely nothing. So I would have been okay with something as long as they pulled it off and it made sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think it's easy to interpret that it was just, the White Rose just conned her. Just, was able to tap into whatever information that she had, was able to create something, show some paperwork, tell a story that would suck her in. And then once she was on the hook, and then you had the whole, part 2 destruction of all of the buildings, Angela feeling responsible for that could be the reason for a mental breakage right there. Again, we're reaching and trying to fill in possible explanations for why it could be. But when I first saw it, that's sort of what I was thinking. Because I was like, this has to be a con. You just got sucked into it. And now you're regretting the fact that you played a part in this destruction.
And here's the thing, Darren. I think that's exactly what the show is trying to tell us in season 4, at least, not in season 3. In season 4, that's trying to tell us, oh, it's just a con all along. The problem is, I don't buy it. I don't think it fits with what we saw in season 3. And so that's another reason why I'm a bit upset with the show by trying to be, oh, yeah, it was just a con. But anyway, I want to address what First Name Wall said in the chat a while ago. They're saying that I honestly loved White Rose start to finish. I'm upset her story ended for no real reason or payoff. And I totally agree with that. And also, First Name Wall says, I had some issues with Dragon Lady stereotype and the possibility of her being sexually abusive. Irving to Grant, did she make you taste her yet? It gets easier, blah, blah, blah. But overall, she felt... But that's what I thought about her until this season, until we got that flashback. I thought that flashback really fleshed out her character and made her more relatable and less as just the evil stereotype, and also put it on the plight of how what it means to be a trans person in China and how that affected her psyche and how the discrimination sort of played a factor into her personality. And I think it really humanized the character, and I did really like that part of the story.
Oh, any of the White Rose stuff I think was always really fascinating. They crafted a really compelling, interesting character, and with each new backstory, they gave better reasonings to why she was who she was. I mean, even the whole adapting her lover's, propensity for time, that wasn't her originally. That was something she adopted as an honorific. I thought these were real interesting storylines in developing. But yeah, how do you take out the bad guy at the end? How do you do that from a compelling, interesting way? And I don't know if they got overly obsessed with wrapping up Elliot's story, that they just didn't know what to do with everyone else. I mean, they spent, I think, a nice time wrapping up Dom's storyline. I think that the Dom story, Darlene episode, I think, was a really nice way of wrapping up some of those characters and bits. And again, we had a great final scene with White Rose there, but yeah, I mean, I didn't really know where to go. It was like, why did you go to Washington Township? Why did you go to do all of this thing? And why are you staying there? And why are you letting Elliot make the choice? And well, it just sort of took a lot of impetus out of her.
Sorry, I have to address something in the chat.
Okay, I can address it too.
Yeah, so Don Paul says, you think the actress wanting off the show had anything to do with Angela's weird story finish? Wasn't that the issue with the cast? And First Name Wall says, Portia said in an interview it wasn't her choice to leave. She didn't know she was being killed off until Sam told her. Now, this is something I've been saying in previous videos. I think I even said this in my finale, that I was more convinced than ever that she wanted to leave, and that's why they wrote her character off. But I'd since changed my mind on that. And so it's interesting to hear that she's saying in an interview that she.
Oh, you did, because that was a big argument we got into in our first.
Yeah, and I changed my mind after seeing the finale, and here's why. I realized it wasn't so much that the actor wanted off the show as much as the writers had no fucking clue what to do with her character. After what they did with her in season 3, once they made her so crazy and of thinking the parallel universe, and they start writing season 4, it's like, wait a second, this parallel universe is just going to be a fake out, so this doesn't fit in what we want to do. Kill her off. So that's what I think happened.
Yeah, I now that I've seen the finale, I can buy that. I think so, but yeah, I'm glad you've come around, because I was going to say, whoa, she really wanted to leave the show. She all spent an awful lot of time on screen in the last 2 episodes for somebody who went off the show real bad. But
no, actually, I talked about that in my phone. She actually didn't appear that much. You notice every time she appeared was like a Skype call. The only time she actually physically appeared was that one scene at the end that mirrored.
Yeah, but that was still the actress appearing in the show.
Yeah, she was literally phoning it in.
He was still.
Oh, man, wait for that
one.
But no,
I'm firmly. I don't know if you said you went back and rewatched the heroin scene. There were people telling me that they just re-showed that scene. I think they reshot the whole thing.
No, the dialogue is different.
The dialogue is totally different. Like,
but the visual look is almost the same. I did wonder if they kept the visuals but didn't change the dialogue. But then the mouths were moving was different, because she looks exactly the same. And
I think they used the same exact set, same exact dress, same exact visuals, but reshot it. Like, I don't think they just took the old footage. But that's I don't know.
Honestly, neither case would surprise me. Like, I'd be whichever the case would make sense to me.
Yeah, but I still want to. I mean, we're getting off on a tangent here, but I wanted to watch it again because I rewatched that scene before the finale, and there was somebody in the chat telling me on my last video that, oh no, she always said mastermind, and they just cut that off in the original. And I'm like, but I swear to God, it sounded like she was saying low in the original. Like, it sounded like she was going to say Loki or Locutus aboard. It started with low. It didn't sound anything like Mastermind. So I have to go back and watch it again.
Yeah.
But
When I watched it, I didn't.
He definitely did not say Mastermind the first time.
I didn't notice that. When I watched it again, I thought it was very unclear.
Yeah,
what she said, that it could have been Mastermind for all I know. Like, I don't know. That's my impression. I don't know. Maybe I watch it again and see if I see the same thing. But anyway, I just want to say first name Wall says she and Rami Malek had a rocky dating history filming season 1 through 2 also. So maybe Sam decided to kill her to end the onset drama. See, that's what I brought up before of why. So I think maybe that still could have been a factor of why Sam got rid of her.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, but none of those are like larger plan ideas. That's definitely like, well, we could do it without her.
Yeah.
You heard his explanation of it, and you can buy it or not buy it, but his explanation of it was that they felt they were asking fans to suspend disbelief too far to still have Angela alive. Like, Elliot is surviving all these improbable things that he should probably died 100 times over, but he's the main character, so you can suspend disbelief. But I feel like the White Rose had showed her something she didn't want anybody really to see. She just showed it to her to manipulate her, so she was always going to kill her. So Angela was always going to be killed. So it felt like Sam said, it felt like he was asking the audience to suspend disbelief too much to keep her alive. That was, you can, I'll just leave it there. You can buy it or not buy it, but that was.
Yeah. I don't buy it.
Buy it or not.
I don't buy that at all. I just think because I didn't get that impression at all. I didn't get the impression that she was surviving impossible odds. I thought it made sense her surviving. So I just think that's an excuse he made up because he had no idea what the fuck to do with the character anymore.
Look, it makes more sense that Angela would have survived by being protected by Price than Elliot surviving. Again, we still don't entirely know why Elliot wasn't killed off by White Rose early on. They're talking about the whole shipping hack and it has to wait 8 days and so on. But even that seems to start to weigh very thin after a while. It's like, well, but you're going to kill him afterwards. And he knows you're going to kill him afterwards. So why would he still go through with the hack unless he only knows that he's buying 8 days? So you're giving him 8 days to it starts to get.
And Elliot surviving getting hit by a car and being like, I'm okay, and being perfectly fine for the rest of the season.
Well, I went into what first name Wall says in the chat. The fact that they filmed those scenes separately makes me wonder if the decision to kill her was made after they filmed 310. Oh, it was confirmed that decision was made after they filmed 310.
Yeah.
If you read that interview that I'm talking about from Sam Esmail, where he also gave that explanation, he also talked about the process of setting up season 4. And so they knew what the final 2 episodes were going to look like. So they knew where they were going. So they would try to parse out the story that they had left and decide how many more episodes they wanted to do. And before they did that, the very first thing they decided was they're going to kill off Angela. But this was all after season 3 is said and done. So it was when they were getting together in the writer's room for season 4 that they had decided that they were going to kill off Angela. So
all right, so we kill off Angela, then what do we do for 12 more episodes?
Right, exactly. Ready. Then 4 episodes later, Tyrell will open up Marcellus Wallace's.
Oh God! All right. Oh no! All right. Before we move off Angela, I want to talk about that. But before we move off Angela,
we're talking about Angela now. I thought we were on White Rose. I think we.
Oh yeah, we migrated to Angela. Yeah. So
go with the flow, baby. Just go with the flow.
So it actually disappoints me. I can't say this is a great ending for the show because I think they underserviced her character, regardless of why they would kill her off. I don't think it plays smoothly, and because one of the reasons, like I have to say, go back and watch her early season. She is a main factor. You cannot say she does not matter. She gets a lot of screen time. She's an interesting character, and she's actually part of the things I love most about season 3. One of my favorite scenes of the entire show is in season 3, episode 6, where we get her flashback of her mother dying from cancer, and she's throwing a party. I thought that was one of the most beautiful, touching scenes. And it means jack shit to just kill off her character and never touch on it again. I don't know.
Yeah, although I will say that her interactions with Elliot's dad, in retrospect, play a little differently.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's interesting, though. I think that works well.
Yeah, yeah, it does, and yeah, I mean, I agree that they disservice her character. Like, I mean, she in the beginning of the show, Elliot didn't even want to tell her about F Society because she's just so pure and innocent. And then suddenly she's working for the Dark Army, and we don't get the reason why. I think that's a huge disservice to that character. And I'm sorry, I just can't buy that. Oh, well, don't worry about that. The show was only about Elliot. As I said before, it reminds me so much of what Linda Q said about the ending of Lost. Well, it's always been about the character.
God damn it.
It's never been about don't worry about those pesky questions and mysteries.
Yeah, this ending
about the characters. And that's, to me, when people say, well, it's always just been about Elliot. Yes. Well, yeah, but it's also always been about White Rose and Darlene and Angela and Dom and
it's always about the characters, just not those characters. Other characters, these characters, the ones that survive.
That's the thing. This finale keeps reminding me of the Lost finale. But anyway, I want to move on. I want to talk about some things this season that weren't touched on. First, let's talk about the safety deposit box that Elliot's mother had, which you were certain that there would be a resolution to because it was definitely a Chekhov's gun situation. I thought the same thing. I was like, they better resolve it. And you're like, oh, there was. Did they resolve? Did I miss it?
No, they didn't resolve it. They never. They never
paid the bill.
On the lockbox. Yeah.
E-Core wins again. Take your stuff.
So what was the fucking point of it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, in retrospect, I agree. What was the point of it? I was certain that they would pay it off because, why would they introduce it if they're not going to pay it off? Would be no reason to introduce it. I had more confidence in Sam Ashmell than that, to just introduce this thing and then never pay it off. Like Finn I won't get into it because we'll get Star Wars spoilers. But a certain character telling a certain character, wait, I'm going to tell you something, and then never following through with anything. But anyways, just kind of just why introduce something if you're not going to pay it off? Then we should have never gotten that.
Exactly.
It's a MacGuffin. It was all its purpose was to give a reason for Elliot and Darlene to sort of reconnect and have a discussion. The specifics on it wasn't in. It was just more one of those empty things because, is there something important here? Oh, it doesn't matter because 2 years ago it was gone anyway. I think it was just served as a gut punch to the darkness of E-Core and reaching into lives. I mean, I don't know. I didn't have that big of a connection thinking this was something that was going to come back. If it did later on, that would be cool. But to me, it was always just a plot device to get these two characters to reconnect.
Well, that is an answer. And what Fernie G23 in the chat says is Darlene used it as emotional leverage. So you could say that was its purpose. But that's lame. I think that's kind of similar to saying in Lost, and again, spoilers for Lost, that what's the deal with the numbers? They cursed Hurley. Oh my God. And they show up everywhere. What's the deal? And at the end, they're like, they don't mean anything. Hurley was just a coincidence.
Just a serial number.
It's an answer, number. But it's lame.
Speaking of numbers, 1116.
Yeah.
1116. Anyone? So why were all the times?
Well,
see, it's not just in Elliot's. If it was just in Elliot's head, you could say, "Oh, it's something to do with that world that he created." But it was on his mom's clock at her apartment. In season 2, and
was it? Right.
It was stuck on 1116 on her clock, and then in Elliot's fantasy world, whatever parallel reality world, it was all 1116 all over the place. What does it mean?
No, it's
1116 there.
It's Esmail's wife's birthday. Just he always likes to put that on.
Oh, is that all it is?
Yes. I don't know. I'm pulling that out. But they did the same thing
Wouldn't be surprised.
In X-Files. There was always like one time that was always on the clock, and it ended up being that's what the reference was. It was like somebody's birthday or something odd like that.
That 11/16 was so prominent in the last two episodes.
And one of the theories I heard was that that means there's going to be a big event that's going to happen on not 11/16, but it's 1/1/16, January 1st, 2016, which the show could have ended there. We don't actually know what date it was when it ended, but I don't think they made it to New Year's.
Cardinal Doomsday says, I think it was the date that Elliot was born, or Mastermind, you can say, was born according to Elliot and Angela. And that could be an explanation.
But in the future? Because they're in 2015.
No, like 11/16 could be November.
Oh, so like 16th. November 11th? Or November
16th.
November 16th?
Yeah.
Yeah, but why was Mom's clock stuck on that time?
Unclear.
Because Elliot is just perceiving these things, man. It's all interpretations in his mind.
So the show can happen.
I don't know. Yeah.
There's one thing. Whenever I watch any show that has any mysterious numbers or times, I'm just going to assume it's going to be meaningless.
Now, I like Colonel Doomsday's explanation earlier in the chat where he said that it was White Rose is going to appear and be in the computer in program White Rose 1116.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually think he said that in my. I think that's what I was thinking of. I think he said that in my chat a couple weeks ago too. White Rose program 111116.
Yeah, but. Anyway, I want to talk about Tyrell Willick because we talked about how much we hated episode 4, and I was thinking, well, if they had some explanation to why there was a weird noise going, and what the fuck that blue light he saw, then I'd be okay with it. Yeah, but you were smart. You knew that the show was just dicking us around. I was hoping for something better, but we did get Return of the Noise. I don't know if you noticed in the finale when they showed Tyrell Willick, they played that noise. But what does it mean? Oh, it just means they're fucking pretentious. It doesn't mean anything. And this is what pisses me off about. I think it's flaws throughout the season as a whole. I can't say it's perfect. Because again, I feel like I am focusing on negative, but there's a lot of things in the season that I love. But there's too much that was like did not gel.
I was a big fan of Pulp Fiction. I figured that was just their little entry. Well, no, to me, Tyrell in this whole season wasn't necessary. I really thought Tyrell's storyline wrapped up at the end of last season. To me, it was all sort of centered. I didn't think any of the discussions between Tyrell and Elliot were important. I thought they were sort of rehashing stuff that was already covered. I
thought Tyrell in this season was going. They seemed to set up with the Mr. Robot scene at the end of the season that, Tyrell, you've gotten the CEO position now. This is our end. So I thought they were going to go with that and go in that direction. That they were going to try to take down White Rose from inside Ecor using Tyrell, and Elliot was going to be forced to work with Tyrell, who was directly responsible for the killing of the 71 buildings, and he never confronted Tyrell about that. I thought I agree with you. They could have also just wrapped up Tyrell's storyline, but they also I felt like there was an avenue they could have really driven down. They could have really explored that.
Absolutely.
Tyrell being inside of Ecor, and then Elliot forced to possibly work with Tyrell and deal with the fact that Tyrell's responsible for stage 2. Because in the new stage 2 where they destroyed 71 buildings, that was Tyrell's idea, and Elliot never confronts him on that. So I felt like that is something they could have done, and it just went.
See, I could point out right now how this season could have been great, and if I was going to rewrite it in my head. First of all, you torpedoed the whole those positive box. Never bring that up because it's pointless. Doesn't matter. Follow Tyrell in this storyline, like you said, with Elliot, and where he has to confront it. Good character stuff. Don't bring back Vera because he's totally fucking pointless. Find some other way for Elliot to find out what his father abused him, and then have him go inside his head and make White Rose's resolution completely separate from it. Reveal like the other personality, or whatever. Either do White Rose first and then do the other personality. Don't try to do them both at the same time. And that's the other. Now I'm getting back to Elliot, but that's the other thing about the reveal. Oh, it was actually, the Elliot we've been following is actually the mastermind. Duh. Like, they kind of told us this way back in episode 9. Like, I figured this out in episode 9. I think they pretty much told us. So when they said, the ending focused, and it made it seem like it was like, ooh, this big revelation, but it wasn't. Like, they kind of already mentioned that.
Yeah, I kind of took it as confirmation in episode 9 when in the boardroom scene with Mr. Robot that it was that not that the parallel universe hair gel Elliot was necessarily the original Elliot, but that the hair gel but that the original Elliot personality was who Darlene spoke to. I thought that was made pretty, I almost felt like it was confirmed in that scene in episode 9. So I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't feel that way, Darren?
No, I don't think. I think I actually kind of missed that point.
Okay.
So yeah. I mean, I wasn't in there with that. No, that just. I don't know. The whole idea still, I don't know, we're jumping back into Elliot here, but
yeah,
the wrapping up and this whole thing has been a new personality. It's just, I don't know how necessary that was to tell the tale. I don't know if that, and even if it was like the original idea of where they were going, it certainly wasn't where the series, I think, had gone for the most part. Which is why I think season 4 in many ways feels a little disjointed from the previous seasons, because it did feel like they were going in one direction and then are like, all right, well, wait, we got to get back over here. So, quick, go back, throw this thing, do this stuff. You're right. They craft every episode so well. I think that's why most of us don't dwell on these specific issues and conflicts, because each episode is created so masterfully. There is great writing. There's amazing performances. They they take chances and risks and interesting ways of bringing that up. And I think it's definitely to their advantage, but I think in some ways, some of those choices were too much like, well, we want to do this great stuff. We have these great ideas of things to do. We'll make the story fit inside of those ideas.
Well, I mean, and that's the reason why I'm so upset, because I'm disappointed. Not because the show sucks, because it doesn't. It's still brilliant. There's this like you said, there's certain episodes, certain scenes that did what no other shows did. Like the way they was edited, put together, the way they play with time, reality. And I wanted a better ending that was more fit what the masterpiece a lot of the show was. But that's just me. But anyway, let's move on to talk about Darlene and Dom. I think we can talk about these two together because I feel their storyline was kind of interwoven this season. And that's another positive, I would say, in the season. I think what they did with these characters actually was a strength of the season. I think they didn't have Vera wasn't really involved in it or anything. I think pretty much from start to finish, well, except for Dom masturbating, like we didn't need that crap in episode 4. It's why are they obsessed with showing him masturbate? But
they're edgy.
But other than that, I think their storyline was beautiful, and I think it was service. It was intense. Like that was one of my favorite episodes. I think I liked it better than most people. Was when they confronted what's the crazy Janice, is that her name?
Janice.
Yeah, Janice. That episode where she confronted her. I love that. I thought that was one of the most intense sequence in the entire show. And I think the resolution to that with Dom outsmarting her by getting the Irishman to rescue her family was so good. And I think their final episode, although a lot of people thought it was too slow or whatever, I thought was a great character beat. Although they did get into the kind of romantic comedy thing, toyed with that a bit. I mean, they faked those out. But I still think it was a great resolution. And Irving just popped up out of nowhere, but I love seeing him. But so I ultimately think that their storyline was the strength of the season.
That was the most fantastical thing in the whole show, that Irving just happened to be in open.
He heard all of us saying, "We need to see Irving one last time." No, I think they had the best, most complete kind of storyline actually throughout the whole season. I think worked really well. Dom starting from her complete panic after seeing Santiago hacked to death. You know, she's suicidal, but she can't kill herself. She can't sleep. She's totally off. She's conflicted. Then trying to enter back into her life and deal with things. And yeah, the whole turnaround with Janice. Oh man, I love that. I love that so much. And then even kind of wrapping things up where she still confronts, is confronting with Darlene of, do I do the right thing? Are you breaking the law? She's so obsessed with, Darlene is giving all of this money, all of the Deus group's money away. And Dom is still at that point concerned. Are you breaking the law? I can't let you do that right in front of me. Until she finally accepts that where she is and there's nothing that she can do and she just needs to let go. I mean, I think Dom's arc was probably the best over the whole season.
I think,
and I really like them tying that in with Darlene and having the two of them kind of lean on each other to help them both through.
I really love that scene when they confront each other right before they part ways, because they both kind of read each other the riot act, and I think they were both absolutely correct about the other. So they were both like just telling it how it is, and I think they were both right. And I think both of them were able to realize that. And I loved how I actually did enjoy the romantic comedy fake out where they made it almost like they were running toward each other, but then they missed each other. I actually thought that was great that they missed each other. And I think they both ended up exactly where they needed to be. And there was speculation amongst people, we need to see more Dom. I don't think we need to see Dom in Budapest.
No,
unless they're going to do a spin-off show called Dom in Budapest.
Where she masturbates all the time.
Cardinal Doomsday, that was you.
Traveling to different countries around the world and masturbating.
Wanking round the world.
No, but anyways, seriously, getting back to being serious, they both ended up exactly where they needed to be, and they both helped each other get there. So I thought that was beautiful. I thought that episode 10, the more I thought about it, the more I really appreciated that episode. It's an episode that I think that got a lot of I don't know if it got hate, but it got kind of shat upon a little bit. Like, people didn't love it. But the more I think about it, the more I love that as a character episode for both of those characters, and how they were able to tie in their characters together works really, really well.
Yeah, sadly, what we don't see is the fact that Dom actually wasn't falling asleep at the end. She died on the flight after ripped open her stitches from running through the hospital to try and get to Darlene. It was a very sad ending for her.
No, there was a plane crash on an island.
No! She was on Oceanic 815!
Anyway, I like what Jen Ike in the chat says. It says, went to the airport bookstore the day after that episode and expected to see Irving.
So I guess it was supposed to be Logan, but it was actually shot in one of the New York airports, I think JFK. So it was actually shot at an airport, but not the airport that they said it was.
Now, I agree with you that that's a perfect ending for Dom and Darlene, that they kind of switch places. They both read each other, and as a result of that, they switch places. I kind of, again, I have to use this term fake out. I don't appreciate the fake out that's saying they're going to meet together again, but they don't. But I don't think they should have. I think because some people speculated that these two characters could get married and live happily ever after, I think that would be a disservice to the characters. But I love how they connected for that moment, for these moments in the episode, and they actually learned to appreciate each other and see through each other. And future relations between them is not off the table. And I think that is the perfect ending for them. Yeah. I think had they been, they live happily ever after, would not have served the characters.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, and I think Dom needed to let go and rest, and Darlene needed to realize, and she served a purpose as going back and helping, being there for Elliot when he was going to need her. So they did end up, I think, where they needed to be. And yeah, it does sort of fix the ideas. They could get back together later on. Tom's just on a trip. It's not like she's moving to Budapest. She's just going away for a little while, and Darlene could meet up with her, or they could just come back. It doesn't remove the possibility of that future, but we also don't get that cheesy, they're sitting next to each other holding hands, the flight takes off, yay, and then crashes. So
yeah, First Name Wall says Budapest would have been a horrible place for Dom Lean to escape to anyway, not especially LGBT friendly. There you go, bringing the reality into it again.
They're going on vacation again. Like, they weren't moving there necessarily, so they could just go there for a little while and then go somewhere else.
Yeah. If Darlene had got on the plane, she wouldn't have been there for Elliot. Well, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
that makes sense. But I don't know if we have any other characters we want to talk about. If we want to talk about Price real quick.
Are we talking about Tyrell in the blue light, really?
Yeah, we did. Do you have more to say about it?
There's nothing else to say.
I don't really.
It sucks. That's all there is to say about it.
We're going to do something with this character. No, we're not. What happened to him? I don't know.
Price. I actually loved Philip Price's ending.
Yes.
I loved how he finally got the upper hand on White Rose and got to gloat before he died. Like, at that point, I think he was perfectly content to die because he knew, he told Elliot at the beginning of the season, he was, I'm a dead man. So he knew he was going to die. So I think that was like the ideal scenario for him, is just to go ahead and die right after he gets to gloat and watch White Rose lose, because that's all he ever wanted. So I thought that was actually a great ending for that character.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in my review of that episode, I said that because I thought it was sort of poetic, because Price always talked about how he wanted to be the most powerful man in every room, but there was one person, or I think he said two, but whatever. He was implying
like three, but we never really explained. Yeah,
we know that White Rose
was one of them.
Yeah, and I thought that he accomplished that at the end, and I got a comment saying, well, how could he accomplish that if White Rose had the power to kill him? And I think because he didn't care about dying, because he knew he was going to die anyway. And so that doesn't matter. He was still more powerful because he helped take her down and ruin her project, and that was more powerful than her killing him.
Yeah,
and he got the time to gloat.
Yeah.
And then she was so, like, just really aggravated that she shot him in cold blood in front of everybody, which... I mean, now it's like she's just done. I mean, she obviously survived the what was it, the army that was going after her?
I don't know what it was.
She survived that, but I mean, that's it for her. Like, if it wasn't already done because Velly had taken the money, now it's done because she just got seen killing somebody in cold blood. And, like, I just picture the ghost of Philip Price floating above. You. I mean, just like, there's nothing more satisfying to him. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Like,
well, I think
he was happy to die for that purpose.
Well, I think that's what made that last great scene. I mean, when he comes in, he's like, we've never gotten drunk together. I mean, he knows it's kind of over, but he's going to get his front row seat. He's going to get his satisfaction of seeing White Rose slowly, which is, again, a whole great bit as she starts panicking more and more and freaking out, you know, as that scene progresses. He gets to see her whole downfall in front of her. And yeah, the idea that his ultimate revenge, the fact that he pushed her to the point that she killed him personally on the street, and that's wrapping things up. You're right. You know, his body hits the ground, but his soul is right there going, yeah! I can't do it a price like you can, Akton. You're awesome. I bow down.
I finally defeated you, White Rose.
Don't you know I am your lover?
At least in the biological sense.
I wanted to go back and do another episode of Star Wars. And then Peter, I am your father, at least in the biological sense.
What was I saying? Okay, so in the chat, Fernie G23 says, did it bother you guys that everyone is pretty much a gun for hire, i.e. Leon, Janice, Irving, once the Dark Army fell, no one was the bad guy anymore, everyone was a puppet. I think Janice and Irving, like Janice died before the Dark Army fell, and I think Janice and Irving were still completely entrenched in the Dark Army. They never left it. Leon is where I think it was contrived writing because they wanted him to be a good guy now. So, like, oh, now he's a gun for hire. Now he just left the Dark Army. Like,
I had a hard time with that when they first said that. It's like, how can you just leave the Dark Army? The Dark Army it's not a McDonald's. It's not you just turn in your paper hat and walk out the door. Like, it just seems like the only way you leave the Dark Army is in a casket. I'm pretty sure. Like, I didn't buy that. But I think you're right. It's contrived just so they can say, "Oh, Leon's a good guy now. He's not in the Dark Army anymore."
Well, you don't see the Dark Army is just going like, "Oh, you gotta try some other places." All right. Well, if you need some more work, just call us back. We don't require any loyalty. It's just these other guys we asked to shoot themselves as opposed to getting caught. You're fine, man. You're fine. You're good.
Yeah.
I like what First Name Wall says in the chat that I'm 100% sure Leon took his name from Leon the Professional, which I can see because you know how much he loves his movies.
Yeah, I never thought of that. That's an awesome insight.
Oh yeah, because he did say like, "You think Leon's my real name?" So yeah. That's. Oh, and also I just wanted. I didn't want to respond to anything particular. I just want to say hi to Allison Fordyce because it's been a long time.
Yes.
Good to see you on all our Game of Thrones stuff, and I haven't seen you in a while. So good to see you in the chat again.
Yeah, definitely. Thought there was something else in the chat I wanted to respond to, but I think I lost it.
Someone did ask what we thought about Vera, but I think
yes,
Mark's opinion on that is well documented.
Now, Allison Fordyce, hello, good to see you, says, as dramatic as the episode with Vera and Krista was, it did seem overly contrived. And that's the thing. A lot of people think that's one of the... I've heard so many people say it was the best episode of the entire show. Did I like it? Yes. Did I think it was a good episode? Yes. Did I think it was one of the best of the show? Not even close. I think it was too contrived. And of course, you know how I feel about Vera. And I think having him in was totally... It was so contrived.
About Vera? I've never heard.
But yeah, I don't think that was. I mean, it was a powerful episode. I like the way it was played, but it was so contrived. It was. Anyway,
well, it was beautifully done. I think Vera did great in that episode. I mean, I think he played his role nicely. But yeah, look, at the end of 3 when he pops back up. Mark, you and I have talked about this. Actually, I think the same thing. The universal response was like, "Oh no, why is this guy back?" And I don't think that changed. I think he did some good stuff, from a character acting standpoint. But I could have gone without having Vera in this season.
There were a lot of Vera defenders. I've gotten a lot of comments saying
Well, they're wrong.
They are. That's true. But anyway.
Colonel Doomsday in the chat, you're overthinking it. Why didn't Krista need the bathroom after being bound for so long? I think if you look at all the times on television when somebody probably should have needed to use the bathroom, you just kind of, people don't need to use the bathroom on TV. It's just
why we didn't get those back shots when she walked into the police station there.
I mean,
she did. She was just tied up at the time.
They didn't even have bathrooms on the Enterprise, so you just gotta not worry about characters are using bathrooms.
Bright Blue says she peed before she stabbed him. So that's what took her a moment. She went to pee and then she stabbed Vera. She plans ahead. I like that.
Anyway, I think we probably covered everything we need to cover, unless there's anything else you want to talk about before we sign off.
No, I think we harped on this final season as much as we could. But again, I say that, but I mean, really, in a sense, I think there is a lot of nitpicking because, we've said it many times throughout here. I'll say it one more. An incredible show, an incredible season, some incredible storytelling, great acting. To me, it's just one of those where, as a whole, kind of finishing through it, it was great. But once you start comparing to other bits of storyline and characters and where things could have gone, to me, it just felt like a very separate season from what came before it. And while they did an amazing job, there's reasons why we're asking all of these questions, because there was a lot that was just sort of left out there.
Some things worked so well and other things did not work at all.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating. That's frustrating that the show could have been perfect. And a lot of people were saying it was perfect and it was one of the best endings ever. And I wish it was, but I don't think it's the case. I think it deserved better because it is an amazing show. And it did a lot of amazing things in this season. But it just wasn't as cohesive as I would have preferred it to be.
But I think because it made a promise that it could. I mean, like you said, it had the potential to really do it. And I think that's where the frustration comes.
Now, Jay joins us a bit late and he's screaming in the chat. Well, not screaming, but repeating in the chat. What about the timeline not going to 2016? Is it still Xmas Day or after? Well, let me tell you an Xmas story. It was an Xmas miracle. I don't mind. I mean, it would have made more. And we already talked about how the 11/16 means nothing, so we already griped on that. You must have missed that, Jay. But I don't mind. Like, they don't have to go into 2016. Like, as long as, like, that doesn't bother me.
Well, I didn't see the ball dropping in Times Square, and I didn't see who does it now. The Ryan Seacrest does. He's the one who does the Rockin' New Year's Eve. I didn't see that, so I think we're still in 2015.
Yeah,
but I. So then we know that episodes like, was it 4 is when the Christmas Day dawn, like it goes from Christmas Eve to Christmas Day, and then Christmas Day goes up through
9.
Yeah, it goes all the way up through 9, and then 10 with Darlene and Dom was unclear exactly what day it was, but it was either the day right after Christmas, because Darlene made a comment about people traveling back from the holidays. So I took that to mean the day directly after Christmas, the 26th. So then from there, I don't know if we have another Nightfall. So I don't know if we get to the 27th even. So I think.
I mean, yeah, you do get the sense that the Dom thing happened immediately and there wasn't like a couple days in between because she got shot and they were still reacting like she just got shot.
And then they replay. Then that all happens in a day, and then they restart Elliot's from that morning on the 26th, and he could have been unconscious for a day or two, I guess.
Yeah, so maybe the very, very
afterwards.
Maybe the very, very end was like the 27th, the 28th.
But even that's like, we're just guessing at that point. We don't seem to get. There's no indication that nobody says Happy New Year at any point. Well, and we would have had that if they did.
Yeah. So I don't think it made it to 2016.
Well, anyway, Bright Blue in the chat says the ending just seems rushed to me, and absolutely, I agree. I totally agree. Anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and end this here. But first, I'm going to put you on a hot spot. What do you give the season, the entire season, a rating between 1 and 10? 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. Who wants to go first?
I would easily give it an 8. Again, yes, there are holes, there are issues, but just from a crafting standpoint, at the very least, possibly even a 9. I mean, because again, while there are some small issues, there's character stuff, there's things I wish that they could have played out. No, I'll have to stay an 8. Because Vera, I mean, it's just what happened. And 4, and I really didn't like episode 404. But still, I think that they did manage to tell a compelling story. I think they told it very well. They found some imaginative ways to do it. And for the most part, left me satisfied at the end. So, yeah, I'll go 8. I'll be bold.
And actually, Mark, this isn't a surprise question for me because I've been thinking about this, like what I would give it, and I actually had come to the conclusion that I would also give it an 8. Despite all of my complaints about the ending, I think that only knocks it down 2 marks. And then the terrible episode 4. Overall, yeah, I still like when I take a step back and look at Mr. Robot as a series. I still think that overall, is one of the better television series that I've ever seen. I am disappointed that it wasn't better. Like there was more that they could have done. And I look at season 4 as a whole and all the different things that they did. And I know that I was higher on some of those earlier season episodes than you were. So yeah, I think 8 is, I'm on an 8. So where are you at, Mark?
I'm actually going to agree with you guys. I'll also give it an 8. Although I will say I'm nowhere near a 9. But
I thought about a 9 too, though. So maybe our 8 is like we're like at 8.2 or 8.3, and you're 8.1.
Yeah, I'm probably closer to a 7, but I'll still give it an 8 because I had more issues with the first 5 episodes, and I definitely am dwelling on all the issues with the ending. I can't say that I left the season finale left me feeling satisfied. It left me feeling disappointed. But that doesn't change the fact that there's a lot of great, like that, as I said, like episodes 8 through 11. Even though 11's kind of let down after the finale, but even then, like I thought those episodes were amazing. I thought they were a masterpiece, and I thought there was like bits and pieces throughout the season that like blew me away, blew my socks off. And this show still has the best editing, music, cinematography, use, playing thing, acting. So it's still all that makes it deserving at least an 8. However, all the issues I had with it keeps it from getting higher than an 8 in my opinion. So yeah, I also give it an 8.
So there's a lot of people in the chat who are, I think we're almost like, this is like if we were a judge at the Olympics, it would be 8. You're reading the chat, first name Wall says 8 out of 10 overall, but 5 out of 10 for episodes 412 and 413. Cardinal Doomsday says Mod says 8 as well. And then his first name Wall again. Actually, there's just 2 people. Okay. People. But yeah.
First name Wall says nowhere near a 9.
Yeah. Bright Blue says about an 8 for me too.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people who will give it a 10 and say this is a perfect season, and
they're
happy for you. Yeah, exactly. Happy for you. That's how you feel.
They're entitled to their opinion, and that's great. I'm glad that they thought it was a 10 because I wish I thought it was a 10. But
yes,
I got to be honest with myself of what I thought of it, and but 8 is still pretty good. I mean,
it's not bad.
Considering how many if we do a finale comparison for the year on shows that have wrapped up, this is definitely doing a much better job than many others, I think.
I'm not sure I'd agree with that.
Okay.
Maybe I'm
watching
watching
shows that are ending, or just shows that like the season
finale.
No, series finale. We've had a few shows. I think. So I think
not that I've been watching. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think Mr. Robot's the only one that ended that I watched this year.
Oh no, Legion ended this year, though. That was a finale. That was a pretty amazing final season. I think I like that one actually more than this one.
I haven't watched it, so
Yeah.
Did one of those Walking Dead shows finally end?
Oh no, they're gonna go on for fucking ever.
They're trying to compete with The Simpsons now.
Yeah, basically. But anyway, Jen Ike says, I give you guys a 10-10-10. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Best cinematography on TV. Yeah. Well, one of the best. I mean, I think there's a few other
What,
shows.
our video? Oh, no, Mr. Robot. Okay.
Mr. Robot, yeah. No.
Stuff here.
Well,
Yeah.
the R2-D2 with the F Society mask is pretty damn good.
Yeah, well, you got to keep company around here.
All right. So earlier, I can't remember who it was. Someone asked what we're going to be up to. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, first of all, a couple announcements. We're doing some more live streams next week. Ooh. So first off, this Wednesday, what time did we say? Yeah, 6 p.m. Pacific time.
6 p.m. Pacific, yeah. We're going to
9
be doing...
Western. Yeah, go ahead, Darren.
Right. Yeah, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern over on my channel on D's Reviews. We're going to be talking Mandalorian first season. Mark's going to come with me. Also going to have Rob from Smirking Gun Reviews. So we're going to have a nice little chat, dive into that season and see what's going up. And then next Saturday, Mark.
So next Saturday, we'll be back here on this channel to talk about a show I actually like better this year. One of my favorite shows, The Expanse. The latest season 4 of The Expanse, will be joined by the same crowd here, Akton and Darrin. Join me to talk about season 4 of The Expanse, which dropped on Amazon all at once, but we have differing opinions on that one. But anyway, I think we all love the season from what I hear, so it would be more of a, I think there will be more in unison in our opinions. But anyway, so that's going to be Saturday, same time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, back here in Gem. And I'll make an announcement sometime in the middle of the week and put up a link or some shit later on. But anyway, Akton, first you want to start what's going on with you and your channel and where people can find you and all that stuff.
Well, yeah, check me out on Akton Tompkins' channel. I think I'm starting to finally wrap up the busy television season of, all the show. I think we were talking off air about how just everything just boom, just drops at once. So I, right after I did my Mr. Robot reviews, I did my final review for His Dark Materials season 1. So you should check that out. Just today I posted my review for The Mandalorian season 1. So you should check that out. I also posted my review for The Expanse season 1. So you should check that out. Coming soon, I will do probably a spoiler-free review because a lot of people haven't watched it yet. But The Witcher, I'm watching that right now. So once I'm finished that, I'll probably do maybe a video that's partially spoiler-free and partially spoilers once I'm finished that. So got all kinds of stuff that I'm doing on my channel. Then after that, I feel like it's probably going to be a little bit of a break until Star Trek Picard premieres January 23rd, and then I'll be back to cover that as well.
Cool. And Darrin, other than the Mandalorian talk, what are you up to on your channel?
Yeah, actually going to be going into a little bit of a break. We'll be doing Mandalorian this week, and then I'll be joining Mark and Akton again next week for The Expanse. Then I'm going to have a little break probably until February, doing the second half of season 10 of The Walking Dead. Then, depending on when it drops, we'll be doing Westworld Season 3, and then, of course, this summer, the final Season 7 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So those are the ones that for sure I'm doing. I've got to see, again, a lot of shows that I watch have ended, so I need to find some new stuff. Also, life's gotten a little crazy for me, so I got to find out where I got time for things. But at the very least, we'll be covering those three plus, a few odds and ends here and there.
Cool. Yeah, and Mark, my channel is Enchantment of Eternity. For the next month or two, my channel is going to be completely taken over by The Expanse. Every week I'm going to doing the discussion next week, but also every week I'm dropping a new episode review, which I actually recorded before, so it was right after I watched the episode, but I'm waiting to release one a week. And also I'm doing The Expanse book to show comparisons for each episode as well. So each of those will drop every week for the next couple of months. That will kind of consume my channel for the foreseeable future. I might do a couple of videos like I have to do my top 10 favorite shows of the year, which I do every year. I'm going to do that soon as well. And other than that, that will basically be the Expanse up until Picard comes out, and I'll start covering Picard. And then when Better Call Saul is coming out in March, and then I'll start covering that then as well. So, yeah. Cool. So anyway, thanks you guys. Thanks everyone for watching, and we will see you guys next time.